Muslim, I'm asking, have you read Quran?
Yeah.
Obviously, you would say, I'm not part of that tradition, you wouldn't know, right? So you would say that if you don't know Quran. Have you read Quran, by the way?
No.
Ah, so that's
I will have to read actually.
No, you have to.
I don't have
You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to. If you're interested, it's fine. But so one of the things why this is asked about when we talk about caste, they would say, please be aware. Immediately when you talk to a Brahmin, there are short films and so on in YouTube and elsewhere. The moment you interrogate a Brahmin priest, why are you a priest? Why not your wife or a sister or a daughter is a priestess? No. Have you read Manusmriti? Have you read Ramayana? Have you read Mahabharata? That is the question they would go. So when they do that, what happens is there is a privileging of what Sumeet said, knowledge. I have the knowledge, you don't have it. I have read, you have not read. So, and then this is Sanskritic, and therefore you don't know. So these are some of the triggers, as an anthropology I find, this is operating in a way, not to interrogate, that's a very crucial thing that I'm coming to. You're talking about affirmative action, that comes later. That comes later. First thing that all of us as at the global level should attack is, like we attack race, we need to attack caste. We are not prepared for that. So because we don't see casteism there, we see some positive aspects. So as an anthropologist, as an historian, that's what I want to hammer that idea, to say that there is no purchase of caste for the marginalized. So as long as you have the caste system and the privileged are benefiting in a substantial way, a minority community such as Brahmins, majority benefit in a majoritarian way, then what happens is you need to talk about things like affirmative action, because majority have been left out of schools, health system, education, jobs. So you need to have an affirmative action. So as long as caste is there, be very clear, is not the reservation affirmative action policy will never go away, and the marginalized will fight tooth and nail, and they are majority. So it will be there. So now one of the ways of negotiating that would be interrogating caste, probably dismantling caste-based temple system. We don't know. We don't know. Is there a possibility of removing the pillar of caste and keeping a temple? I don't know. So these are the ideas which we should be prepared to experiment, which we are not.
Okay, maybe someone else also can ask some questions.
You can come back.
Yeah, you can also ask later on.
Yep.
I really don't know if this casteism is kind of hegemonic in India or not. I mean that a person from the lower group of the society, does he accept this situation by satisfaction or not? If not, it means that that minority, you are talking about 25%, it means that that minority is supported strongly by political system and militia, of course. But this is paradoxical, because as far as I know, the Indian government is not totalitarian government completely. And as a sociologist, it's difficult to differentiate. But as a sociologist, which part do you think plays more important role, the top of the pyramid of the society or the base?
Very important question. So I'll give you some of the things. As you said, India, this is the paradox, to use the word.
Paradox.
India is the largest democracy. So there are official data, clearly, probably every 3 minutes, a person is wounded in the name of caste. Probably 7 or 8 women are raped in a day or something in the name of caste. These are all there in the internet, official data. So this is that sociologically studied, and there is this book called Blocked by Caste. 2 professors have written this book, how today's economy, if you go to the cities, if you want to rent a house in Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai or Bengal, maybe if you are an Indian, the first or second question itself, after getting to know your name, if the caste is not figured out from your name, the second question would be, which caste do you belong to? Now, how do I say that? I interviewed people in Chennai, therefore I'm saying. And Chennai city has had anti-caste movement for more than a century. Through my studies, I found out. There, a woman was crying and telling me she wanted to start a shop, organic produce shop, in one of the main streets of Chennai. And she was asked, the second question was, what is her caste? She had to cry and leave. So that way, behind the facade of largest democracy, this paradox of clear hierarchy goes on, in which, and then the present government, so-called BJP government, and many sociologists and historians also call this as Hindu rightist government. And it's because a lot of violence has come about in a way, and there is recently a priest, so-called a guy with priestly dress, typically a Brahmin, of course, become a chief minister in one of the states called Uttar Pradesh.
He's not a Brahmin. He is a sannyasi.
So he is a Brahmin. His last name is Bisht, which means a Brahmin name, and he is re-christened himself. So I'm clear about that. So he has become, and there is a picture of a Christian priest going and saying, "Look, we feel threatened. This happened a month ago. We feel threatened. We Christians are threatened." So it's a nice picture. A group of priests, Christian priests, have gone. That guy is sitting there, chief minister, telling them, "We feel threatened as a Christian community. Can you do something to sort of tackle that situation?" You see the persecution complex? So behind this legislature, democracy, election system, I think many communities are feeling uneasy right now, which needs to be questioned. So I would say, in some ways, the privileged group, to answer your question clearly, the privileged group seems to have institutionalized casteism in some way, by which the other religious and lower caste groups feel deeply threatened. So as a sociologist, I think the resistance has been there for long at the lower level, but they have not been successful so far to really interrogate and change the system. Not necessarily upside down, but in some way breaking through the caste barriers.
No, I don't want to take your time so much.
No,
it's clear that the upper class, this privileged caste,
Yeah.
it's it's satisfactory for them, the situation. They don't want to change the game.
Yeah.
But do you consider any role for the lower classes to reproduction of this rhetoric?
Exactly. That's again a very interesting question. So take for example, this is again a problem of some of the lower caste movements. So I go with you on that. So what happened, some of the lower caste movements, some of them, try to reproduce their own caste categories to fight in some ways. Why? This is again connected with what you said as affirmative action policy. Now it's very clear there is no anti-caste program from the government, right? And it's also very clear privileged caste groups were thriving in the pre-colonial times. They were thriving during colonial times. They are now thriving under post-colonial times in the last 70 years of independence. So clearly the minority has been flourishing over a period of time. So what do you do now? So these lower caste groups have to use their own caste categories to fight it out. So hey man, at least let me get a small piece of bone. That's how they are operating. So while there are some intellectuals among them who have the vision of attacking the caste, but the electoral politics, everyday politics, is somehow moving the direction of let's settle down for a small pie, small piece of the cake, and not interrogating the larger meat that can come to them. So there is this unfortunate disagreement and incompatibilities among the marginalized groups that way, which also need to change.
Yeah, I think I would like to just add one thing to your question. The point is that political parties across ideologies reproduce the same power structure. So even the communist parties, which are known to be very radical, for standing up for change, if you look at one of the Bundesland, the states in India called West Bengal and Kerala, but West Bengal because that's where they ruled for 34 years in a row. So if you look at who are the chief minister, who are the cabinet minister who take the main decision, who are the main ministers. So if you look at the caste profile of these people throughout the last 50 years, there is absolutely no change. And that tells much more about the story of India. So if you look at the centrist parties, communist parties, socialist parties, right-wing parties, like the BJP party, absolute dominance of that particular group. So no matter what kind of ideologies they belong to, there is maybe some minor changes here and there for the middle level. But for the bottom level, that's what they reproduce. So they reproduce their power by going into different political ideologies. So till yesterday they were fine with communist parties. Today the Communist Party has lost the power in like 2 years ago. Now they were happily moving towards the right-wing party. And so that's how the power is reproduced. So the point is that, of course, there is the resistance from below. But the point is like, the resistance is not enough because across political ideologies, at the end of the day, they reproduce the same power structure. So you have only some political parties which come from bottom, but obviously they are fighting against this massive mammoth of political parties. And therefore, at the end of the day, they do change a little bit, but it goes again back to it. So there is an absolute struggle all the time. And then, yeah, so that's where we are right now. So it's not, I wouldn't particularly blame one political party, to be honest, actually. So BJP is particularly not good, but say, for example, if you look at other political parties as well, they are not necessarily very good either, in terms of record. Obviously, they don't do violence, and you know, if somebody is doing the cow, skinning the cow, they would not, all these kind of informal groups who terrorize Dalits are probably not there. But the point is their material condition doesn't change. And that's the most crucial point as well. And in that sense, you know, across political parties, somehow there is this consensus. So they can be left-wing, right-wing, and somehow they reproduce caste. And it's a sad reality.
They have not become anti-caste political parties, many of them. So
Just
go
one
ahead.
sentence.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Because as you tell me, I believe that the main aim of the political party is to be popular between the society. Just see in the other way. If they follow this casteism, maybe they want to be accepted in the base of the society.
Yeah, one of the reasons they don't really challenge the order.
But you cannot differentiate between this reason, which has the bigger portion, you know.
No, so it's like also these groups are very scattered. So they only in some regions in India they have electoral like strength, but some regions they don't, and therefore the population is scattered. So you don't have numbers in your hand. And obviously the dominant political parties, whichever political ideas and colors and shades you go, they want to come to power, and they will not hurt the sentiments of the population in general.
Again, to add a little bit, so you have the central government parties, national parties. So, like Sumeet was saying, there is this Bharatiya Janata Party, Congress Party, maybe a couple of communist parties. They are supposed to be national parties. Now, what do? And you have at the regional level, we have more than 30 states or so, and each state has its own typical local political parties. Now, the national parties, what do? They kind of work on the caste system, like you said. Here in this state, in this locality, you have the Brahmins. Give them a representative. And you here, the non-Brahmin upper caste here, give them a representative there. You have the low caste there, give them a representative. You have a Dalit community there, you have the tribal there. So they find representatives from all of them, right? And put them together as a party and get elected. Now, so each group will operate within this caste group, and that gets legitimized. So there's a tragedy of Communist Party, as Sumeet was saying, was this. This is how they kill Marx in India, you know. So it's supposed to be against religion and caste and so on, but Communist parties never have taken serious position against caste seriously. Why? Most of the parties, including militant Marxist-Leninist parties, were run by privileged caste groups. That's a tragedy. So, what is done by typical casteist party, maybe such as a BJP, is also done by Communist Party. So, caste is reproduced that way. And the regional political parties, some of them had anti-caste past, have over a period of time diluted that. And they are also trying to recruit different castes at the regional level. So, that is how caste is stabilized. But the anti-caste social movements, which are not part of the electoral politics, many men and women are against caste. But I think it will take a long time. So, against caste-based system, the possibility of social movements, achieving more results are there than electoral politics. Hopefully it makes sense there. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions?
And I would ask a question. Whenever we talk about caste, let's just say, there's always, or casteism, there's always talk about violence and things like these. But when you say exclusion, it extends beyond violence. And especially, and let's just say, let's limit the scope to the diaspora communities who are living outside and they take this exclusionary methods with them. So how do you tackle that, let's just say, in this perspective, and how do you even bring it up, or
among the diaspora?
yes.
So among the diaspora, the issue of caste, or
Yes, the issue of caste. For example, how do you explain something that is not seen? For example, it is not violence,
Right.
it is exclusion in another way.
So maybe I'll speak in everything. So while I was teaching in the US in different universities, and this thing I dealt with anthropologically the question of caste, and definitely there were second generation Indian students, Indian American students in the class. I had two sets of very interesting, I start from there and two sets of interesting views from them. Interestingly, some of the students had rebelled against their own parents, against that kind of attitude. What are you talking about? So when they went and when they were wanted to move around, some of them they ate meat here and there, they loved their pork and beef in the US, and in India they couldn't find it out, and whenever they were found out they were attacked and so on. So I came across second generation Indian students in the US who rebelled against and interrogated whatever that goes on in India in the name of caste. Another set of Indian American students I came across is that India is India primarily because of caste. Then so they celebrate caste, but they interrogate race in a big way, So then I kept discussing, because I want to understand that mind. So then I asked them, this is, for example, from Rockefeller University, two PhD students were there in my class. So I very distinctly remember them, and so I asked them, how many times have you been to India, and have you been to, so 3 or 4 times. Where do you get your ideas? Home. My dad has been very clear in teaching me all that, and literally dad. And then, so the home training has been a big way in influencing the second set of people. Now, like Sumeet was pointing out a few minutes ago, there is a report, you can Google this and see. In UK,